As the blizzard loosened its icy grip on the land, the first rays of sunlight began to pierce the dense clouds that had blanketed everything in white. The young doctor, who had spent what felt like an eternity examining the letters hidden beneath the old train station floorboards, now held them close, as if the tales within would warm her against the winter chill. With the storm's fury finally abated, the doctor stepped out into a hushed world transformed by snow, her boots crunching through the pristine drifts. The air was crisp and sharp, each breath a reminder of survival, both hers and the stories she carried. The letters, a tapestry of passion, sorrow, and resilience, had painted a vivid picture of the lives once lived in the small town just beyond the railway tracks. The letter's author, a woman of remarkable resolve, had woven a narrative that far exceeded the bounds of her personal loss. Her words told of a community under strain, friendships torn apart by suspicion, and a cascade of betrayals that had sealed the fate of many. The doctor's journey to the Wild West frontier had begun as an escape from her old life, a quest for renewal amidst the rugged vastness of Wyoming. Instead, she had found her senses sharpened and her spirit called to action by the stories whispering from the past. Entrusted with this knowledge, she became determined to learn more, to piece together the mosaic of lives etched across the years and render visible the people who had been swallowed by time. She began with the town itself, trudging through the snow, her eyes scanning the desolate expanse for signs of life. As the sun climbed higher, melting the snow, the path became clearer, leading her to the remnants of a once thriving settlement. Vacant structures nestled beneath thick snowcaps greeted her church, its steeple poking defiantly above the drifts, a saloon with swinging doors frozen mid-motion, and a schoolhouse, its windows dark but inviting. The town seemed to hold its breath, a ghostly presence lingering, inviting exploration yet wary of revealing its secrets to Isley. The doctor found herself drawn to the saloon, its aged wood creaking a reluctant welcome as she pushed the doors open. Inside, remnants of the past lay scattered, a toppled bar stool, shattered glass, and the haunting echo of laughter and music now long silent. It was here she imagined the letter's author, a teller of tales, a drink in hand, eyes watching over the town's unfolding unraveling. Conflicts over land, money, and love brewed beneath the surface of the letters, climaxing in a series of disappearances that had splintered the town and spun whispered tales into legends. The doctor realized that the mysterious vanishing of men, including the letter writer's own husband, was not merely the unfortunate outcome of frontier life, but the result of calculated machinations and deep-seated vendettas. With each step through the abandoned town, her resolve strengthened. She envisioned the letter writer, her spirit unquenched by loss, and felt her presence urging her on. The doctor resolved to dig deeper, to give voice to those who had been silenced, and to bring closure to their unfinished stories. Guided by the substance of the letters, the doctor sought out those who might remember a handful of elderly residents living at the outskirts, their homes stubbornly withstanding the tests of time and nature. These keepers of memory, though wary, opened up to the young doctor, sharing their recollections of a time when despair and hope walked hand in hand along the dusty main street. Things were never easy here, one bent elder admitted, a faraway look in her eyes. But we carved out a life till the likes of greed and jealousy took hold. Together, their stories and the letters unfurled the full tale. A land dispute had sown division, a triangle of love and longing had ended in heartbreak, and alliances formed in shadows had spelled doom for the unwary. The community, painted vivid and alive through shared recollections, had been laid low by human failings, allowed to slip beneath the snowdrifts of history until now. As the doctor pieced together the chronicles of lives lost, she understood her newfound purpose to be a bridge between past and present, a keeper of legacies too valuable to remain buried. The voices she had come to cherish imbued her with perspective and clarity, urging her to ensure these tales of heroism and heartbreak endured. As dawn broke anew, unblemished by the last vestiges of the storm, she gathered the residents together one final time. In that moment, there was a sense of unity, a rekindling of hope forged from unspoken bonds and the promise of remembrance. Through her dedication, the town's truths were preserved, safeguarded to serve as cautionary tales and enduring inspirations. The doctor, once an outsider, embraced by the whispering voices of the past and the living souls of the present, stepped forward, her heart full yet unburdened. She knew the stories would live on, not just in words, but in the hearts of those who would hear them. understand them, and carry them forward. Thus, the young doctor, forever changed by the storm and the letters in the snow, turned toward the horizon, where new beginnings awaited. Armed with the wisdom of the Wild West and the strength of the human spirit, the howling wind outside seemed to echo the cacophony of emotions within the doctor, as she sat in the dimly lit train station. The letters she had uncovered pieced together a town's haunting narrative, as if each word was a stitch in a fabric woven with desperate threads of hope, betrayal, and resilience. The artifacts of old splayed out in front of her seemed almost alive, their voices murmuring tales of a bygone era that demanded to be heard. The tale was centered around Agnes, the woman whose name appeared most frequently, and whose voice cried out from the pages with raw emotion. Agnes had come to this land, a beacon of courage and tenacity, seeking prosperity with her husband, Samuel, who had vanished under puzzling circumstances. Each letter wrote of Agnes's despair, but also of her unyielding determination to unravel the web of mysteries enveloping her life. The doctor's heart ached for Agnes, whose writing spoke of an undiminished spirit. Even as the shadows grew longer, she uncovered letters describing strange happenings in the town, hushed conversations behind closed doors, glances fraught with conspiracy, and a chilling absence that enveloped the community in indistinct fear. What happened to Samuel? The doctor pondered as her fingers trailed over the parchment. Worn and fragile like the dreams of the woman who had penned them, Agnes had suspected foul play. Over time, she had pieced together a clandestine network of deceit that involved prominent members of their small settlement. There were mentions of clandestine meetings in the dead of night, and whispered oaths that spoke of protecting a secret that could shatter their world. The doctor became engrossed in one particular letter, a harrowing piece that revealed a breach of trust. Agnes had confided in Sarah, a woman she considered a steadfast friend, only to discover that her supposed confidant was embroiled in the same circle of treachery that seemed responsible for her husband's disappearance. The revelation stung like a fresh wound, how the very people she sought comfort in had betrayed her trust, contributing to the uneasy silence that had descended upon their town. Faced with this dark truth, Agnes's path became one of isolation. The doctor felt Agnes's loneliness acutely, the forsaken woman battling an unseen adversary alone, her spirit bending but never breaking as she resolved to seek justice and truth. The letters became more sporadic, the ink fading as though mirroring her dwindling hope, but never extinguishing entirely. The storm outside was relentless, a fitting backdrop to the storm brewing in the doctor's mind. She felt a strange kinship with Agnes, two souls separated by time, but united in their pursuit of truth amidst swirling uncertainty. Burdened with the secrets entrusted to her, the doctor realized that these letters were not mere remnants of the past. They were a call to action, a plea to ensure that the voices of those who suffered in silence could finally be heard. A poignant resolve washed over the doctor as she took in the final letter, penned with a shaky hand but with unwavering conviction. Agnes had left a trail, a history of hidden encounters and clandestine betrayals, urging whoever found her letters to bring light to the darkness that had enveloped her life and those of the disappeared. As the blizzard began to wane, giving way to dawn's early light, the doctor knew her course was set. She would not allow the whispers of the past to remain buried beneath layers of snow and secrecy. With a heart weighed down by the sorrow of the stories she'd unraveled, yet uplifted by the clarity of purpose, she vowed to return to that small town nestled in the wild expanse and uncover the truths hidden in its history. She would ensure that Agnes, Samuel, and all the silenced voices of the frontier would have their stories told, their echoes carried forth into the present. With a steely resolve, the doctor gathered the letters tightly against her chest, stepping out into the subdued aftermath of the storm. The world was changed, silent and still, yet brimming with possibilities as she embarked on a path of discovery, justice, and remembrance, determined to transcend the silence and give voice to those long unheard. The wind howled with an unrelenting ferocity, a living entity clawing at the little train station that had become the young doctor's unexpected refuge. Outside, the blizzard roared, a wall of white fury, isolating her from the world she sought to know. Each gust rattled the windows, their frail panes shivering under the force of nature's onslaught. Inside, the diffuse light cast ghostly shadows that danced upon the walls, their movements eerily synchronized with the chaos outside. With each letter the doctor read, a tapestry of a life lived in perseverance and tenacity unfurled before her eyes. The woman who penned these letters, whose spirit lingered in each cursive loop and line, seemed to whisper across time. Her words painted vivid pictures of a landscape both beautiful and terrifying in its raw, untamed expanse. The doctor imagined her, not as a ghost of times past, but as a friend speaking truths carved into the bones of the earth itself. One particular letter captured her attention, more poignant than the rest, a tale of one desperate winter when hope waned, and despair coiled like a serpent in the hearts of the townsfolk. The woman wrote of a meeting in the dead of night, beneath the silent, watchful gaze of the snow-blanketed forest. Men and women gathered around a flickering fire, their faces set with determination and fear, muttering about the mysterious disappearances that plagued their town. Weeks had turned to months since the first of their kin had vanished into the shadows of the mountains, swallowed by the same snow that now confined the doctor. Each time the wind shifted and sighed through the trees, the woman imagined she heard their lost voices, carried between the flakes like mournful lullabies. But these were no idle dreams. They were the cries of a community on the brink of collapse, each lost soul a thread unraveled from a once strong tapestry. Emboldened by the conviction in the woman's words, the doctor felt her heart swell, a tide of empathy and purpose swelling against the isolation that gripped her. She read of the woman's resolve to confront the secrets behind the shaking leaves and creaking wood of the forest, the murmur of betrayal whispering beneath its branches. There was talk of a man, once the heart of the town, whose promises of safety shattered like ice on the river's edge. The doctor shivered, reality and memory intertwining in the cold confines of her solitary refuge. As the woman in the letters journeyed deeper into the heart of the blizzard-ridden woods, the doctor could almost feel the crunch of snow beneath her own feet, the bite of the chill air against her skin. She wondered how a person could face such relentless desolation, driven by a love and duty so strong. In a moment of spine-tingling clarity, the woman described a night when the howling ceased, a silence more frightening than the storm, for in its absence, the woods revealed truths too dark for daylight. The conspirators met in the hallowed circle of tree trunks, where light and dark melded under the pallor of the wan moon. There, alliances sundered by greed and fear were laid bare, names spoken like dirges as friends turned to foes. The woman's words became urgent, the pen trembling under the weight of her revelations. She wrote of standing alone, yet unbroken, among the ghosts of her loved ones who had vanished. It was in that crucial moment, under the starlight's chill embrace, that the promises of the past were questioned, alliances tested, and the heart of the blizzard revealed its core, a conspiracy as old as the town itself. Every betrayal was a story unto itself, every disappearance a testament to the human capacity for resilience and cruelty. The doctor, in her isolation, felt the burden of these untold stories weigh upon her shoulders, the woman's determination heating the cold chamber where she sat. The storm outside raged on, yet in her heart a new storm brewed, one of resolve and revelation. As the letter drew to its poignant close, the doctor's vision blurred, not from the dim light or the relentless cold, but from the shared sorrow and strength of a past now inexorably linked to her present. The woman's final words held a promise, not only for herself and her lost kin, but for the doctor who had stumbled upon her legacy of courage and tenacity. With a deep breath, the doctor set the letter aside, her fingers grazing its worn edges with reverence and gratitude. The storm roared, but now its voice was a call to action, a demand for justice and remembrance. She was no longer an outsider stranded by fate. She was a keeper of stories, a bearer of truths long buried, ready to confront the blizzard's secrets and emerge into the dawn of a new understanding. Thus armed with the spirit of the past, the doctor prepared for the next chapter, determined to honor the voices that once whispered beneath the snow by ensuring their stories endured, undying beneath the relentless sweep of time. The dim light of the flickering lantern danced across the weathered pages, holding the weary doctor's gaze in a trance. Each letter carried the essence of a life lived long before her time, a poignant reminder of the remarkable resilience and deeply felt emotions stitched into the fabric of the past. The woman's name, Catherine, leapt out from the aged paper, her voice a stirring echo across the years that had bridged their disparate worlds. The first letter unfolded a tender love story, the ink tracing words of yearning and devotion. Catherine's husband, Robert, had ventured west, lured by the gold rush that promised fortune amidst unforgiving landscapes. They had promised to write, but Robert's letters ceased inexplicably. In the silence that followed, Catherine poured her heart into the only form of communication she had left. Her words, a lifeline stretching across distance and despair. "Dearest Robert, the nights grow long without you. Winter locks the land in its icy embrace, yet I remain constant, as true as the northern star guiding you back to me." But as the letters continued, the overpowering shadow of loneliness emerged, bathing the words in a melancholic hue. The hope nestled within the early letters slowly gave way to a desperate plea woven through every subsequent line. The town that had been her refuge grew oppressive, its secretive air harboring whispers of other disappearances, other dreams devoured by the endless plains. The town speaks in hushed tones now, like leaves murmuring secrets to the wind. Names slip from lips in fear, each syllable a prayer for answers I can scarce bring myself to seek. In the stillness of the abandoned station, the doctor felt Catherine's sorrow seep into her own being, the timeless agony of a love suspended and a future rendered uncertain. The letters became an anchor linking Catherine to her past, and yet their revelation begged the question what became of her. Steeling herself against the weight of the next letter, the doctor was swept into Catherine's growing resilience. Faced with the intolerable uncertainty, Catherine's words shifted from longing to determination. She sought allies in unlikely places, friends and outcasts, bonded not by blood, but by shared despair and unyielding hope. "I find strength in the unlikeliest of corners. Together we weave strands of defiance against the relentless tide threatening to consume us. The world tries to bury us, but we are seeds, destined to rise anew." Catherine's letters illuminated hidden fractures within the town's facade alliances, formed in shadows, whispers of betrayal and misjudgment. The community, once vibrant, was now entangled in webs spun by fear and suspicion, each thread threatening to unravel its very heart. "Trust, like winter, has grown brittle, yet I nurture it still, searching for warmth amidst the cold. We hold to what binds us, a fragile thread of hope, unyielded by time." The lantern's glow mirrored the flickering resolve within the doctor's heart, the story drawing her deeper into its tangled roots. She knew now that these letters were not just remnants of despair, but beacons illuminating the path toward truth and redemption. For every insurmountable sorrow lay intertwined with a glimmer of hope for love, for justice, for resolution. Just as the blizzard raged unabated outside, the unresolved conflict simmered within Catherine's narrative, preparing for the ultimate confrontation. With each letter, the doctor gathered fragments of the truth, a puzzle forming beneath her fingers. The final words of Catherine's pen echoed with a defiant resolve that reached across the divide of time, urging the doctor to see beyond the chaos. "Should you read this, know that our stories are more than the sum of their parts. We are the architects of our destinies, forging paths illuminated by our shared humanity. Let no secret remain entombed by the snows of history." With tears threatening to spill over her lashes, the doctor set aside the last letter, the narrative complete, yet unresolved. The voices of the past had kindled an unquenchable fire within her, the promise of unfinished business echoing in the depths of her soul. No longer a mere visitor to this frozen realm, she was a bearer of stories, a guardian of truths that clamored for release into the unforgiving wilds. The journey ahead lay uncertain, shrouded in mystery and unyielding challenges. But with each word, each letter, the doctor's purpose crystallized like frost upon glass. A resolve that would carry her beyond the storm and into the heart of the secrets untold. No longer. The howl of the wind outside the derelict's train station was a mournful wail, its voice raised in echoing lamentation as it battered against the wooden walls. Inside, Dr. Eleanor Markham sat huddled near a dying stove, her breath visible in the frigid air. The storm had swept in with little warning, leaving her stranded in this forgotten corner of the world. As the snow piled high against the station windows, Eleanor knew she had no choice but to wait it out, hoping that it would abate before provisions ran low. Her mind restless and seeking distraction from the biting cold, Eleanor paced the narrow confines of the station. Her footsteps disturbed a thin layer of dust that had settled over everything. Shelves, once bursting with supplies for travelers, now stood empty, resigned to their decrepit state. It was during this aimless wandering that she noticed the loose floorboard. At first, it seemed like yet another sign of neglect, but upon closer inspection, something peculiar caught her odd corner of folded paper peeking out from the gaps. Crouching down, her fingers gingerly pried the board free, and she discovered a small cache of letters, bound together with a faded ribbon. The envelopes were worn, their once white surfaces yellowed with age. Each bore a name. Margaret O'Donnell scrawled in delicate, slanting script. Intrigued, Eleanor settled back onto the floor, carefully untying the ribbon that held these relics of human connection. She unfolded the first letter, its ink slightly smudged but still legible. The writer spoke of a world distant yet achingly familiar, where the endless horizons of the West promised freedom, yet often delivered hardship. Margaret wrote of dreams shared with her husband Thomas, their aspirations woven into the very soil they tilled. Her words were imbued with a love so profound that Eleanor felt a lump form in her throat. But beneath the veneer of Margaret's gentle reminiscence lay shadows, passages alluding to disappearances, whispers of a darkness slowly encroaching upon their idyllic plans. Eleanor's fingers tightened around the fragile paper, drawn into a world where hope and despair danced upon the edge of every sentence. The second letter brought with it a subtle change in tone. The optimism of the first had waned, replaced by uncertainty and longing. Margaret recounted the last day she saw Tomasa, morning golden with promise. He had left to trade supplies in town, a journey he had made countless times before, without incident. But this time, he had not returned. Days turned to weeks, the seasons shifted, and still, there was no sign of him. Eleanor's heart clenched for the woman whose words defied the boundaries of time to touch her soul. In Margaret's loneliness, she found echoes of her own solitude, the yearning for connection that had driven her from the familiar comforts of Boston to this rugged frontier. As the storm roared its fury outside, Eleanor continued reading, each letter a piece of a puzzle she felt compelled to solve. Margaret chronicled the town's reactions, their initial sympathy turning to suspicion. Whispers of other missing men drifted through the community, weaving a tapestry of fear and uncertainty. Margaret, however, refused to succumb to despair. Her letters spoke of quiet resilience, of small victories won against the encroaching shadows. Through Margaret's eyes, Eleanor glimpsed the vibrant tapestry of a town once full of life, a tapestry now marred by threads of sorrow and silence. Women like Margaret held their families together, their strength a testament to the enduring spirit of the settlers who had carved homes from the wild landscape. The last letter, dated 2 years after the first, bore an unfamiliar tone of resolve, forged in the crucible of loss. Margaret wrote of plans to leave, to seek answers in her own way. Her words carried the weight of irrevocable decisions, yet also an undercurrent of hope that the truth, once uncovered, might set her free. Eleanor refolded the letters, placing them back into their faded envelopes. Her heart ached for Margaret, a woman she had never met but now felt intimately connected to, bound by the shared experience of seeking truth amid uncertainty. The letters had become threads linking past and present, prompting Eleanor to contemplate the stories hidden within the drifts of snow. As she returned the floorboard to its place, Eleanor's resolve solidified. The secrets held within this forgotten station demanded to be heard, and like Margaret, she realized that silence was not an option. Whatever the blizzard concealed beyond these walls, she would face it, armed with the courage bequeathed to her through the written word. With renewed purpose, Eleanor stoked the stove, determined to honor the voices of the past. The storm outside could not last forever, and when it relinquished its grip, she would step forward, dauntless in her pursuit of the truth that lay waiting beneath the winter's shroud. Dr. Margaret Hawthorne, a resilient and spirited young physician, tightened her grip on the reins of her aging mare as they battled the relentless snowstorm. Her journey westward to Wyoming in 1866 was supposed to be an adventure, a chance to carve out a life in the wild landscapes that promised opportunity and freedom. Yet here she was, barely able to see a foot in front of her, the wind's icy fangs gnawing at her resolve with every gust. She had set out from the last known settlement that morning, unaware of the ferocity of the approaching blizzard. Her goal was to reach the town of Red Creek, a settlement she'd heard both good and troubling tales about. As the snow quickly piled around her, turning the trail into an indistinct blur of white, Margaret could feel the pangs of doubt. Her fingers, stiffening with cold, clutched tightly at the map that was quickly becoming irrelevant, the ink running as snowflakes met paper. Fortune, however, seemed to have a small measure of mercy for the doctor. Just as exhaustion threatened to overtake her, Margaret spotted the faint outline of a structure through the thick curtain of snow. Urging her weary horse onward, she discovered an old, abandoned train station. The building's facade was weather-worn, yet it stood as a sentinel against the storm, offering her only hope for refuge. Margaret dismounted painstakingly, leading her horse into what used to be the lobby, the wooden doors creaking in protest against the cold. As she tethered the mare and set about making a small fire from the debris scattered about, she felt the isolation of this vast, unforgiving land. The flickering flames offered scant light and warmth, but enough to steady the doctor's breathing and melt some of the tension from her limbs. The wind howled with renewed intensity, rattling the fragile windows as if eager to consume the little warmth that Margaret had eked out. She wrapped her coat tighter around her, huddling closer to the fire. Her eyes, scanning the dim interior of the station, caught sight of something odd, a loose floorboard protruding just slightly from the rest. Curiosity, a force that had driven her to the edges of civilization and now to this very spot, sparked anew in Margaret. Her tired hands worked the board free, revealing a hidden cache within the dark gap below. There, bundled together, lay a collection of old letters, as if waiting patiently for someone to unearth them. Carefully, she pulled out the stash, brushing away the dirt and examining the letters. Their envelopes aged and yellowed with time. Each one bore a singular name, a woman's name, repeated in the same spidery script, Eleanor Whittaker. The sight of them, silent yet potent with untold stories, captured Margaret's imagination. In this desolate outpost, where the past seemed a distant wraith, these letters were a lifeline to what had been, whispered promises of stories aching to be told. Drawing one letter close, Margaret opened it with care, unfolding another era with each precise movement. The paper, fragile yet resilient, betrayed secrets that even the tempest beyond the walls could not hush. Eleanor's words reached out to her through time, describing her life in what was once a bustling town. Red Creek, a vibrant community now lost to the pages of history. As Margaret read the first few lines, she was transported into Eleanor's world, a place of hope, heartache, and resilience. Eleanor's husband, like many men of the frontier, had ventured for riches and dreams, leaving her to hold the fort against isolation and despair. The deep longing in Eleanor's prose was palpable, each sentence carved with the yearning for her husband's return, each word steeped in quiet strength, wrestling daily with the closing shadows of loneliness. Tired as Margaret was, she felt the woman's spirit beside her, enduring against the elements, both external and internal. The letter was more than ink on paper. It was a bridge across time, pulling Margaret deeper into the mystery of Red Creek, into the story of Eleanor and the unexplained vanishings that had seemed to plague this remote stretch of wilderness. In the depth of Eleanor's words, Margaret found not just a plea, but a purpose, to bring light upon the darkness that had swallowed the souls of the past. As the echoes of the storm reverberated through the station and the letters laid softly around her, Margaret knew this was no mere accident of fate. The land had trapped her, yes, but in that entrapment was revelation. Eleanor's story, hidden beneath the snow and time, was now hers to unravel. And as the fire crackled against the cold, Margaret Hawthorne realized she had arrived at the true threshold of her new journey. A journey that went beyond being a mere physician in the Wild West. It was a calling to be the voice of the voiceless, to kneel at the altar of history and tell its quiet, yearning truth.